Here, player A drives to the basket as player B holds his position and does not let him pass. Player A loses balance as he is shooting the ball, but no foul was called. Is that a good call or a bad call? That's a good call. Player B held his position properly, had his hands out, and did not initiate contact. On this play, the player with the ball makes a fake, attacks the basket as the defensive player swipes down violently, knocking the ball out of the offensive player's hands, causing a foul to be called. Was that a good call or a bad call? That was a bad call. After review, the defensive player got all ball as he swiped down. Initially, the offensive player's jarring looked like he was hit on the left arm, but the replay shows otherwise. He also traveled. In this situation, the player with the ball is barreling down for a layup. The defensive player is running beside him trying to cut him off. They both get to the point of attack and contact is initiated by both players, resulting in a foul. Is that a good call or a bad call? That was a good call. The defensive player does multiple things wrong on this play. He never established a position, does not square up his body, and he runs into the offensive player. Even though the player with the ball did initiate some contact as well, 9 times out of 10, this is a foul. On this play, offense drives to the basket as defense reaches in trying to strip the ball. A foul is called on the backside referee. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a bad call. The back referee was at a bad angle to call that type of foul. The front referee has a better view and clearly sees the defense gets both hands on the ball. In this situation, player A drives to the basket as player B goes for the block with his hands up to the sky, initiating the foul call. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call. The defensive player made a fatal mistake with his arms. The second his arms go from vertical to horizontal, he is going to be at a disadvantage. If his arms would have been straight up, a foul might not have been called. But since that extra nudge causes player A to lose his balance, the foul was called. Here, offense drives to the basket for a layup as defense holds his position, hands straight up, and falls back as some contact was made. Should this have been a charge or a block? Actually, no call was made. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call. For the most part, the defense held their position as offense was able to sidestep the defense and not get the charge. Some contact was made by the offense, but not enough to throw the defense back to the ground. At the speed the offensive player was going, if it were a true charge, the defensive player would have been jarred back, not fall to the ground as slowly as he did. The defense flopped. Here, the player drives to the basket as the defensive player reaches in and initially gets his hands on the ball as a foul was called. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call. Defense did initially get only his hands on the ball, but the offensive player's momentum caused the defense to come across the body of the offense. On this attempt, the offense misses a layup multiple times as a foul is finally called on the last attempt. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call. The defense did everything it could without fouling to get the rebound, but the offensive player's length was tough to overcome. There is some contact but not enough to warrant a foul called until the obvious slap on the arm. On a side note, this is not a 3-second violation, as every time the ball is shot, 3 seconds resets. Player A drives to the basket as player B comes across the upper body in an attempt to slap the ball as a foul was called. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call, and a fairly easy one at that. This was an obvious foul. As a rule, the offensive player can hold the ball for 5 seconds, dribble for 5 seconds, pick up his dribble, and hold the ball for another 5 seconds until a violation is called. This only applies, however, when the defensive player is within 6 feet of the offensive player. Here, the player is called for a 5-second violation and the turnover in a pivotal point of the game. Is that a good call or a bad call? This was a good call. A referee cannot come with a measuring tape to pinpoint the exact distance between offense and defense, but one can pretty much estimate if the defender is within 6 feet of the offense. Look at the referee's right hand as he begins his count once the offense begins his dribble. The defender does not have to be an arm's length away, but within 6 feet for the count to begin. Thank you for watching this segment of Good Call or Bad Call. Like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at TheBallGoGetIt. Hope you enjoyed the video.